Welcome to our pay progression training session video. The aim of this video is to increase awareness of NHS terms and conditions, policy and process in relation to agenda for change pay progression, provide an understanding of who pay progression applies to. At the end of the video we will signpost you to where guidance documents and template letters are available on the staff intranet. What is pay progression? NCIC have implemented a new policy from the 1st of April 2025 for pay steps taking place on or after the 1st of July 2025. There will be a set of performance standards that the employee will need to meet to achieve their pay step. These are: appraisal process completed within the last 12 months and outcomes in line with the Trust's appraisal procedure. No formal capability process in place at the date of the pay step point. No formal disciplinary sanction at the date of the pay step point. All statutory and/or mandatory training has been completed. And for line managers only, appraisals have been completed for all their staff as required. Here is an image to give a visual representation of the pay step for each band. The entry point is shown by the blue square, intermediate point shown by the green circle, and the top step point is shown by the orange triangle. When there is a green circle or orange triangle, a pay progression meeting is required. For example, based on the 2024 to 2025 salary scales for a Band 5, the entry point is £29,970. The staff member continues in the role for 2 years. During this time period, regular appraisal discussions take place. When the employee reaches 2 years at Band 5, shown by the green circle, the employee is eligible for the intermediate pay step point of £32,324. This is where the pay progression meeting is held to determine if the pay step is approved or deferred. If the pay step is deferred, the employee will remain at the entry point until performance standards are met. If approved, the employee will move to the intermediate point. As you can see from the example, this then follows the same process to get to the top of the band, shown by the orange triangle. Who does this policy apply to? This policy applies to all employees on agenda for change terms and conditions. Employees who are on long-term sickness absence, maternity leave, parental leave, and adoption leave will not be disadvantaged for the purposes of pay. However, we will discuss this in more detail later in the video. Pay progression does apply to other staff on different terms and conditions. However, this video and policy only applies to the employees on agenda for change terms and conditions. This policy does not cover bank workers as they are covered by the bank booking procedure. Lastly, pay progression does not apply to employees at the top of the band, other than those at Band 8C, 8D, and 9, where a pay progression meeting will take place to determine if salary is maintained or if a 5% reduction is applied where the standards aren't met. We will go into further detail on this later in the video. The process. Firstly, a manager will receive a workflow notification via ESR on a monthly basis outlining all direct reports who have a pay step date within the next 90 days. An employee will also receive a notification 4 months and 1 month before the pay affecting pay step date. Following the notification, a pay progression meeting takes place. In sufficient time before the pay step date, the line manager will meet with the employee to review whether the requirements for pay progression have been met. Due to possible changes in circumstances, we recommend that this meeting is held no earlier than the 3 months before the pay step is due. If an individual has more than one role or assignment in the trust, a pay progression meeting is required for each role or assignment. During the meeting, a pay step review form is completed and recorded on ESR. Following the pay step meeting, the manager must record this meeting on ESR as a pay progression meeting within 3 days of the meeting taking place and/or prior to the pay step date to ensure the pay progression is actioned. Please note, the pay step will not automatically be actioned in the payroll system. An electronic pay step progression meeting form is available on the intranet. If it is preferred to record details of discussion on this document prior to inputting information onto ESR. If an employee finds that despite raising the upcoming pay step with their line manager, the pay step review meeting is not being arranged, they must escalate this to the next level manager. To approve, the employee must meet all performance standards which can be seen on the screen. We will go into further detail on the next couple of slides about approved and deferred pay steps. Pay step approved. If the employee has met the criteria for pay progression, the pay progression would be approved. If the employee has failed to meet the criteria but due to valid organizational constraints beyond their control, such as organizational or operational issues, pay progression will be approved. The line manager will determine what constitutes a valid organizational constraint. The line manager will need to record the rationale within the pay progression meeting on ESR. Employees should bring such matters to the attention of their line manager as soon as possible, not waiting until the pay step review, so that these can be addressed and remedied. Failure to do so may result in the pay progression being delayed. If the last appraisal outcome was not satisfactory but remedial actions have been successfully completed by the time of the next pay step date, the employee will be able to progress without delay if they meet the other standards. To ensure a pay step is processed in the next pay run, line managers must ensure that the pay progression process is completed in a timely fashion to ensure that pay step points can be implemented in time for the employee's pay step date. The pay progression meeting should be recorded in ESR no later than the 20th of the month preceding the pay step date. For example, if a pay step is effective on the 5th of March, pay progression process will require completion no later than the 20th of February. If a meeting has been recorded late, the manager will need to contact the ESR Forms team confirming that the pay step review has been completed. ESR Forms will then process the pay step manually based on the review form. Pay step deferred. Employees and line managers should have regular discussions about any problems in reaching the required standards before the pay step date, allowing time for issues to be raised and possible solutions found. However, in situations where standards have not been met as per the pay progression standards, and there are no mitigating factors to justify this, it is expected that an individual's pay step will be delayed. This must be recorded within the pay progression meeting in ESR. The line manager should write to the employee using the standard letter template, which is available on the staff intranet, confirming the decision to delay the pay step and advising the employee of their right of appeal. Line manager should discuss and agree a performance plan with the employee for any remedial action needed to ensure that the required standards for pay progression are met, including a timescale, and how any training and support needs will be met. There is a template document available to record this. The employee must take all necessary steps to meet the requirements as soon as possible, and the line manager must provide the necessary support. A further pay step review meeting should be arranged at an agreed date to review progress, and, where satisfactory, initiate progression to the next pay step. Where the performance plan standards have been met, the manager will need to contact the ESR Forms team confirming that the pay step review form has been completed. ESR Forms will then process the pay step manually based on the review form to uplift salary from the approval date. The effective date for progressing to the next pay step should be the earliest date that the relevant requirements are shown to have been met. The pay step date for future years will remain unchanged. Where performance plan standards are not achieved, the employee will remain on the performance plan until performance standards are met. Where an employee's pay step point has been deferred, the employee has the right to appeal in writing within 14 calendar days of the notification of the decision. When submitting an appeal, the employee must set out the grounds for their appeal. The appeal should be heard, where possible, by a more senior manager who has not previously been involved in the process. This should not be heard by the manager who took the decision to defer the pay step originally. The employee has the right to be accompanied at the appeal meeting by a work colleague or trade union representative. It will be up to the appeal panel to decide, on the basis of the facts available, whether or not pay progression is approved and when this is payable from. The employee must be informed of the outcome of their appeal in writing within 14 calendar days of the date of the meeting. This is the final decision and the end of the formal procedure. If the appeal is upheld, the decision will be updated on ESR by recording a new meeting. The manager will need to email ESR Forms to advise of the approved pay step so payroll is notified to uplift the individual's salary from the approval date. If the appeal is not upheld, the manager is to continue process for pay step deferred. So as previously advised, pay progression does not apply to individuals at the top of the band unless they are employed on a band 8C, 8D, or 9, and we will now take you through what this looks like for individuals on these bandings. In the year after an employee has reached the top of bands 8C, 8D, or 9, 5% of their salary becomes re-earnable. If the standards are met, the salary is retained at the top of the band. If the criteria has not been met but this is due to organizational or operational issues, salary will be retained. If the standards are not met, The salary may be reduced by 5% from the pay step date, subject to there not being factors beyond the individual's control, such as organizational or operational issues, which have prevented compliance with any of the requirements. This review will take place annually. Where standards have not been met and salary is reduced, the employee will be unable to restore their salary to the top of the band until the following year's review, by meeting the required standards. Furthermore, ESR notifications are not generated for individuals who have reached the top of the band, and managers will need to access the Workforce Information Dashboard to identify individuals. We mentioned earlier that employees on long-term absence or parental leave would not be disadvantaged for the purpose of pay progression. So to provide some further details on this for employees whose pay step date falls within a period of planned long-term paid absence, such as maternity leave, adoption leave, shared parental leave, or a period of long-term sickness absence, the manager can conduct the pay step review early if this is reasonable, allowing the pay step to be applied on their pay step date in their absence. If the pay step review cannot be conducted prior to the pay step date, the pay step point should be automatically applied in the employee's absence. Where an employee is suspended from work on full pay, managers should ensure that the pay step point is applied from the pay step review date, provided they meet the performance standards at the point of suspension. There are some exceptions to this. If there was a live disciplinary sanction in place at the point the employee went on leave, the pay step meeting should still be recorded on ESR, at the point the pay step is due, with deferment due to live disciplinary sanction. There would then be a follow-up review once the sanction expires. The pay step would then be applied the day after the sanction expires. If there was an active formal capability process underway at the point the employee went on leave, the pay step meeting should still be recorded on ESR, at the point the pay step is due, with deferment due to formal capability process. Upon return, the improvement process should be resumed immediately, and on satisfactory completion, a follow-up pay step review should take place and outcomes should be recorded on ESR. The period of their absence should be set aside and the pay step point backdated to an agreed date as if the employee has completed the improvement process without being absent. Periods of absence under the career break scheme will not count as reckonable service, and the pay step point of any employees on an employment break would be frozen until they return to work. The manager should meet with the employee on their return from the career break to ensure the employee is aware of the standards to be met for pay progression and confirmation of their next pay step date. Here are some useful contacts. For further information, documents, or templates in relation to the pay progression policy, please go to the intranet. There is also some guidance and a step-by-step video available on the intranet for how to input a pay progression meeting onto the ESR system. Thank you for watching.